like cats and dogs, and we were all hunkered down just try to stay warm. But that first night is when it started, and Mary Kennedy's minivan basically died, or the battery died in the middle of the night. She couldn't start her car in the morning and had to get a jump, and we thought that was a little strange, but we didn't really realize that that was just not just her vehicle, but many other vehicles in that campground went dead. Their batteries went dead that night as well. That was Sunday night. But let's jump to the main event on Monday night. That would be the 27th of August, 2018. Basically, we started out that night doing a sky watch right down at the lake. It was a beautiful night. It was a full moon, by the way. I do remember that because we're sitting there in our Skywatch gravity chairs with all of our equipment. Ray Leo had some night vision cameras that Lee Strauss lent her because he was on top of the mountain. And we had Scotty with some night vision binoculars, and we all had binoculars just generally. And basically we're sitting there looking and watching Mars rise to the right of the mountain like an orange glow. It was just beautiful. And the full moon was coming off to the left of us. And, of course, the lake was just like glass, and everything was reflecting into it. And we were looking for anomalous aerial activity that night. Nothing really seemed to pop up to catch our attention, except Troy, our enlightened millennial. Troy Bacon was sitting to the left of me in his gravity chair. I say gravity chairs because what we do is we can like lean all the way back in these chairs that we get at Costco, and we can not have to crane our necks to look up at the night sky. So they work really well, especially if you're in a sleeping bag in a gravity chair. But Troy was mentioning that off to the left, he brought our attention to these interesting sounds off to the left of us, which were like stick breaks, wood knocks against the trees that didn't seem to be transitioning the site. It seemed to be coming from an area maybe 20 yards to our left and kind of hanging out in that area. And we couldn't figure out what was going on, whether it was a raccoon or some kind of an animal back there making some noise. But it was very unusual that it lasted probably an hour in length all the time we were sky watching that night. This anomalous basic sound coming from the left of us that looked as if someone was actually stepping on rather thick branches, because there were thick branch breaks, and then these very hard wood knocks against some of the trees. After about, I think it was about midnight, I think that we decided to call it a night that night because we didn't catch anything on tape as far as aerial activity. So we all go back to the campsite. And that is when, at about midnight, a lot of the IT members decided just to fire up the campfire again that night and sit around and talk for quite a remaining period of time. There was Troy Bacon, Sam, your wife, Kevin was there, Ray Leo, and, Dan Weiss was there, the producer of Ambition Pictures, along with his son, a cameraman, Joshua, and a couple others around there. Now, I, by the way, decided that that was probably enough for me that night because I had not been able to sleep very well the night before. So I was anticipating being able to take advantage of Kevin Beagle's generous offer to sleep in his pop-up trailer with him and Sam and those guys to make sure I had some electricity to plug my CPAP machine in. And those of you who don't know, a CPAP is continuous positive airflow, air pressure machine that you sleep with if you have sleep apnea to keep you from snoring and allow you to get good REM sleep at night. So anyway, I was going to go bed early, so I headed off probably 12:30 or 1 o'clock with Kevin to the pop-up trailer to set up for the evening. And Kevin was nice enough to be able to hook me up with one of the deep cycle 12-volt batteries that he had inside the trailer to basically keep my CPAP machine going. And man, was I looking forward to this. So I basically hunkered down on my sleeping bag on the one side of the pop-up trailer on a nice little bed shelf that you got there, by the way, Kevin. Is very beautiful and very comfortable. And I'm pretty much going to bed right away. So I zonk off. I'm thinking that probably it was about, I don't know, 1:30, do you think, Kevin, when we finally got to turn the lights out?
Yeah, it was. It was one of those things that I think was pretty interesting because Tuckaluck Lake is kind of an interesting place. It's about 4,500 feet, in elevation, and so it does get kind of cold at night. And what I find was interesting is that because there's no really external light, there's no power to that location, like city lights or anything like that. Sometimes you can get those different types of things, so people turn in pretty much whenever it gets dark if they're not sitting at their campsite. So I found it interesting that whenever you came back, that you did say that you had stick breaks and snaps and stuff like that, especially for that length of time, because you're backed up to a wilderness. I mean, I don't think a lot of times people realize that. There's a place there it's like that, but if you were to go to the left or the right, you can go for miles and miles and miles, and there's nothing there. I mean, there's one road in, one road out, and so it's not like you're going to get contamination from other sources.
Matter of fact, it's one road in and the same road out. So it is basically a dead end there into the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. Matter of fact, your campsite with the pop-up trailer basically was backed up to the Gifford-Pinchot National Forest. Let's put it that way.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, if you're looking at it, you guys had a clear, unobstructed view of Mount Adams from the lake. There's no civilization in any way, shape, or form from there. Tuckaluck Lake is about 6 miles away from the west face of Mount Adams. And a lot of people need to realize too, Mount Adams is kind of an interesting place because half of it is on the reservation and the other half isn't. So so it's a very sacred mountain, and to a lot of the Yakima people, different tribes that make up that. And they've got great stories about those different types of things. They've got Thunderbird legends of that area, Bigfoot legends, all kinds of different stuff. So, I mean, if you say something to somebody up there that you saw Bigfoot, I mean, it's like no big deal. I mean, they just confirm that as far as I taught on different reservations over the years. I have a master's degree in Native American education, but that's neither here nor there. But I've taught on a lot of different reservations, and they're very, very open about the spiritual past of these mountains. And so, historically speaking, from that kind of stuff, we were in the prime spot.
Yeah, exactly. And matter of fact, at the same time that we are hunkering down at Tuckaluck Lake on that Monday night, Lee, you are at the top of the mountain at this point, climbing up to the top with a film crew. Is that right?
Well, up to Artist Point anyway. We weren't going to go up all the way, so we pretty much stayed up there at Artist Point. Yeah. I'm sorry, not Artist Point. I meant Lunch Counter. Sorry, talking different mountain.
Got it.
Lunch Counter. That's right.
Yeah, cool. You get your mountains mixed up. You're up there so often.
Yeah.
I know. Okay, so while and obviously you guys probably hit the hay a little bit early as soon as it gets dark, trying to stay warm on the snow in your tents and your foul weather gear, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, we've talked about what's happened before. Up there on Lunch Counter, they have these little rock alcoves that they have built to basically guard the tents against the wind that comes up and over the mountain. And the idea is that you wake up early, like 12 o'clock, and then summit for the the sunrise. that's a pretty big thing. So they climb, usually go up there, sleep, and then start climbing at 12, or around that time.
Got it.
So our camera guy, after we bed down.
We're going to get into that in just a second. I've got a little thing in my mind how I want to build this thing first. And then we're going to jump to you, and you're going to explain to us what happened to your camera guy and to Philip and yourself on top of the mountain there. So, but basically, Kevin, I wanted to make sure we were synced on the time there. About 1:30, we turn the lights off. I'm just really relieved my CPAP machine is working, and I'm in hog heaven. So I just zonk right out as far as I can tell.
Oh, yeah.
Then, it wasn't very long after that. Of course, when you're asleep, you don't know any, timing or anything like that. But all of a sudden, what happened in my perspective is that my CPAP machine turned off in the middle of the night. And I'm just going, oh my gosh, sounds like the battery died on the power system that you had put together for my CPAP machine. So I take my arms out of the sleeping bag and I look at my my wristwatch that has one of those glowing dials on it. When there's a fluorescent, it's a fluorescent dial you can see in the middle of the night if you've got enough, light, ambient light to make it reflect. I noticed my watch said 3:30 in the morning, 3:30 a.m. So I figure, oh, well, maybe that's all the sleep I'm going to get that night if there's no more power. So I decided to get up and get ready to go outside just to go to the bathroom anyway, since my aging prostate usually does that for me in the middle of the night. And so I inadvertently wake Kevin up, and he goes, "Oh, what's going on?" I said, "Oh, the battery died, I guess. I'm going to go to the restroom real quick." And he says, "Oh, okay, don't worry." He says, "By the time you get back, I'll switch over the battery to another battery I have, just so you can continue on sleeping." And I'm really grateful at this point to you, Kevin, for wanting to do that in the middle of the night for me. So I go outside, and you being the prepper that you are, you've got a really nice porta potty out there with a nice stand-up tent in it. And I can't believe how well prepared you are, but it's like 10 feet away from the pop-up trailer, so it just takes me a second or two to get out there. And I swear, as far as my perspective goes, I was there for about, 2 minutes at the most, just doing my thing real quick and coming back and getting into the trailer to stay warm. And when I come back into the trailer, my perspective was that it was amazing because you were asleep again already. And the CPAP machine that I looked at, my CPAP machine, the light was back on, the power light. So I was going, wow, that was quick. You switched it over right away and we're back to sleep. So I thought that was great. I get ready to get back into bed and I inadvertently wake you up again. And that's when you asked me at that time, what time is it? And I look at my watch and I notice that it's 4:30, and I tell you that, and then we both don't think anything of it and go right back to sleep and sleep the rest of the night as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Yeah. No, one of the things I wanted to clarify on this is, too, that what's interesting about it is that the inverter battery, the inverter that runs off that battery, I had to set up a little bit differently this time, but it's got an alarm on it. What's interesting is that you woke up and I woke up without sort of hearing this sort of constant alarm. It's a high-pitched noise. It was funny because Sam heard it and she was trying to wake me up. And you had gotten up, and so it was very, very strange in the fact that that this sort of thing was going on while we were in it. And like I said, whenever you went out to go to the bathroom and came back, I almost felt like I was in some sort of a trance state. I mean, that's the only way I can describe it is sort of switching over to the other battery that we had, and and we were having problems too. I don't know if you even